comms people don't familiarize themselves with this content. So they just come to you with a story. So I've had a lot of emails, a lot of messages about people going, oh, I have a great news story for you. Are you still at the previous publication you were working at?
Hello and welcome to CommsLife from APCO Worldwide. I'm your host, Tom Billinghurst. Every episode, we take a deep dive into the topics and trends shaping the communications industry and beyond. In this episode, we're looking at the grey area that has emerged between influencer and journalist. Are they still disparate animals, or has a hybrid beast emerged? The rise of video content has affected an irreversible shift in content consumption behaviours, which has prompted brands and news publications to reprioritise how they package and promote their content. So how does that impact the way communicators reach out to publications and package their content pitches? Joining us to discuss this topic is Lubna Hamdan, host of business talk show Greenback. Lubna, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for taking the time to join us from not too far away, the CNN building just over the road in Dubai Media City. Perhaps as an introduction to you, your career and this episode and what we're going to talk about, I'm going to take you back to an article that I remember you writing about Carlos Ghosn, the multi-millionaire former Nissan CEO, who famously or infamously perhaps escaped house arrest in Japan in December 2019. It was this kind of Mission Impossible style routine. As he was about to stand trial on major financial misconduct charges, he fled Japan, miraculously escaped and appeared in Lebanon on New Year's Eve, where a small coterie of journalists were invited to a press conference. And you were one of those journalists there to get an exclusive scoop for what I seem to recall the front page being "Catch Me If You Can." So I have to ask to kick off, how did you get that invite, very exclusive invite? And secondly, what was the atmosphere like in that press conference with such a notorious personality in there?
Well, first of all, I didn't get an invite. I had to chase multiple people. To actually get into that conference, it was probably the hardest conference ever to get into, for me in my career at least. I actually flew to Beirut, not knowing if I would get the interview or not, but I thought I would go and take a chance anyway, because I was confirmed the spot, given a spot by the PR team, who then told me a day before I was meant to travel that there were no more spots and that I couldn't be given a spot anymore, which I thought was ridiculous, unprofessional. But anyway, I still flew out because I had a contact there that I thought would help me. And also I thought me begging the PR team and telling them that I might lose my job over not getting the interview, which wasn't going to happen, but I had to beg and, obviously pull all the strings, etc. So yeah, I was not invited. It was such a struggle to get in. Finally got in, got front row, which was amazing. So worked out in the end.
You point out it's a hustle. It's a lot of chasing and harrying and following up and a few other tricks of the trade, like pretending that your job is on the line to get an interview, is perhaps the side of the profession that we don't always see. We see the glamorous front pages and the cover stories and that kind of thing. It's something that is often missed, the darker side of journalism, perhaps. But
Definitely.
So they were your days as a business writer and a business editor, which you had worked your way up to after, I think, 6-7 years of writing and news journalism. But recently you've made a switch to the broadcast side, specifically for social media broadcast content. So can you tell us a bit about Greenback, the business show that you are now hosting on Downtown Dubai TV?
Sure. So first of all, I want to say that the hustle is still the same, whether you're, writing business journalism or doing that on video. What Greenback is a business talk show for millennials, I would say. So our target audience is millennials. We want to give them business content that they're interested to see, that makes them more interested in business. Because if you look at all the content now, all the news content, it's all, your typical kind of traditional news, even the social media style news that you see There's no millennial business show. So with each episode, we have a twist as well to make it a bit more interactive. So I'll give you an example. I spoke to Marcus Smith, the man who ran 30 marathons in 30 days. So I interviewed him while attempting to run on the boulevard. I'll leave that to you to guess how it ended. I didn't last, obviously, but but it was really interesting to speak to him about his business and the challenges of making money as an athlete, and then his advice for young people who want to become extreme athletes, but also want to make money out of it and want to open businesses. So you can find a business angle in any story. You know, every single person is a brand or a business, really. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make business more interesting for the younger audience.
Absolutely. So let's bring this back to the topic of our podcast, which is primarily for communicators. Obviously, we love to involve you guys from the media on it as well. But from our side of the fence in comms and PR, this shift to video first content. How has it affected the way that comms firms and PR agencies reach out to you and say, hey, I've got this client, I've got this story, here's your angle? And how has the way that pitch is being packaged changed?
I think, first of all, a lot of comms people don't familiarize themselves with this content. So they just come to you with a story. So I've had a lot of emails, a lot of messages about people going, oh, I have a great news story for you. Are you still at the previous publication you were working at? I'm like, no, I've left, but I'm doing I'm doing kind of the same thing, but it's a bit for a more younger generation, like a bit more hip and cool. But I'm still covering stories. And they would say, oh, okay, fine, cool. You know, let's talk later. And I'm like, hold up. It's still an interesting story. Let's just turn it into a video. So I think a lot of people don't understand that, you know, this is the way forward as well. Like, you should be more excited that we're doing this on video and social media and stuff. I think a story is a story. It's interesting either way. So if I could give a piece of advice as to how I would like someone to approach me, first, I would say familiarize yourself with the content so that you know when you're pitching it to me, you understand exactly, you know, how to pitch it and what goes into it. And then I think secondly, and most importantly, is get creative, you know, think outside of the box. We don't have to be traditional with video. So I think a lot of people just don't take the risk and the chance to do something different, you know.
Thanks for tuning into CommsLife by APCO Worldwide. If you're enjoying this, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us wherever you get your podcasts from. Catch up on all our previous episodes where we discuss everything from the future of aviation with Arabian Aerospace to the global economic recovery with The Economist.
Welcome back to CommsLife. We're still here with Lubna Hamdan, host of business talk show Greenback. For our second segment, we're going to take a look at a recent and relevant news or media item with our guest. In this episode, it's a bit of an unusual off-kilter one because, Lubna, we're going to look at an article written by you in December 2020 for Gulf Business. After all, who better to tell us about the article than the author? So the news piece that you wrote, I don't need to repeat it for you, but for listeners, it'll be handy, is Dubai radio presenter Chris Fade wants to hire you, but you may have to be willing to work for free. The part of the article that jumps out to me is towards the end of the article, and I'm just going to quote it here. You write, "We could all do with a little less entitlement and a little more good old hard work, because the blatant truth is that the need to prove yourself never really ends." Fade is the perfect example of that. He says, quote, "There are a million people that would love to do what I'm doing, and every day I've got to protect it. There is always someone knocking on your door wanting your job. No matter what you do, everyone wants to take someone's job. That's what it's all about." So this notion of entitlement and people expecting more or expecting to be given a title that they haven't yet earned is something that Chris Fade mentions and you allude to. is that a trend we're noticing more and more in media and comms with the younger generations, do you think?
The reason we notice it more perhaps in media and comms is because of the gray area between journalist and influencer, or even, PRs and influencers as well, because I think some PRs consider themselves influencers too. But yeah, no, I don't think it's limited to that. I personally see it more in the younger generation, because overall we've just had it better, really. Like statistically, even we have had better lives. That's why I think we see it more in the younger generation.
The role that Chris Fade has there, and we mentioned it in the introduction to the episode, is this kind of hybrid journalist meets influencer. And the term influencer, I know we have spoken about this previously, but the term influencer is almost become a much maligned one because of how they're perceived, or how some of them present themselves to a certain target audience. Do you see a shift in the way journalists are presenting themselves, or having to present themselves, whether it be from pressure from their media publication that they work for, or otherwise? Have you seen a shift towards that? And what are your thoughts on how you are, in fact, broaching that topic?
There's definitely pressure. I've been feeling it. I feel like I really need to work on my social media. And I was never really good at that because I'm kind of an introvert, and that's the way it is with most journalists. But I think the biggest challenge is that as a journalist, it's never about you. It's always about the other person, and it's about the story. So for me to put myself as, oh, I'm this personality, is really challenging and difficult. I'm trying to find a balance, because I am now going to be the face of, or I am now the face of a video show, a YouTube social media show, essentially. So I have to do that.
So, but perhaps actually as a consequence of this, and the way that you and Downtown Dubai TV are promoting your content and your product, I found the response to this article really interesting, remembering that the article that you published on Golf Business was essentially an op-ed on the back of your interview with Chris Fade. What I noticed on when you posted it on LinkedIn to promote the episode was that there were a lot of people in communications who, for one reason or another, don't really express their personal opinions about news that's out there, whether that's because of the companies they work for, the clients they work for, what they represent. But the comms guys in the background really came to the foreground when you posted this on LinkedIn, which I found really interesting, because some people were suggesting that you were pushing an agenda of an entitled generation, or equating the younger generation of entitled up-and-comers with the influencer influence, if you like to put it that way. Why do you think that op-ed and that episode of Greenback sparked such divided opinion in our field?
I'm trying not to sound too controversial, but I can't help myself.
No, please.
I think there are two types of people in this world, and I think those two types of people were divided on that opinion because there are two types of people. I don't think there's a gray area. I think you're either this or you're that, and that is, you're either a person who is going to look at the world and say, it's an unfair world, et cetera, I deserve this, I'm entitled to this, or you're going to be the other person who says, yes, this is an unfair world, what can I do to get what I want? It's very simple. We all know it's an unfair world. We know that. I mean, as an Arab, I can tell you, and a woman, it's much harder to be taken seriously, to get jobs, etc. So, there were people on that thread arguing that, how can you say this? This is not fair. I was like, well, of course it's not fair. That's not the point. The point is, it's very simple. It's life is about survival, and you have to grab what you can.
We hope you're enjoying this APCO Worldwide production. To find out more of what we do in the communication space, head to apcoworldwide.com and see how we are helping firms build back stronger.
We're still here on CommsLife by APCO Worldwide with Lubna Hamdan, host of business talk show Greenback. Lubna, thanks for sticking around. For our final segment, we've got some getting to know you questions. Ready for these?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, let's go. Your earliest childhood memory?
I woke up, it was my birthday, woke up in bed. There were tons of presents on my bed and my family like surrounding me. And that's how they woke me up for my birthday. So I can't remember which birthday it was, but I was really young. And it was just one of like my best birthdays ever. So yeah, that was my earliest childhood memory.
That's a beautiful one to start.
Yeah.
Your worst experience as a journalist?
Gosh, there are so many. You know what? I might mention a recent one. I was meant to do an interview, which I eventually got, but after 5 hours of waiting and a lot of negotiating and a lot of, I don't want to say threats, but a lot of just, yeah, anyway, moving on. It was a struggle, to say the least. So it was with a Russian artist, one of my all-time favorite artists. The reason why it was really close to my heart is because, you know, being half Russian and half Palestinian has always kind of, like I've always been at a loss as to who I am, like kind of like an identity crisis. You know, when you're a hybrid, it's really difficult to really find yourself. So it was just really close to my heart because I don't get to do these Russian interviews often. I was really excited. I went to this place, waited 5 hours. It was a terrible experience because I felt I was really sad that these Russian artists who are known worldwide, who not a lot of Russian artists are known worldwide, didn't want to connect to people here and didn't want to change the image of Russians in this part of the world. So yeah, it was really sad. It was a struggle for me. I ended up getting it, but it didn't feel good and I didn't even get to enjoy it. So yeah, that was really not great.
If you weren't in media, you would be a
advertiser. If you had asked me like a year ago, I would have probably said lawyer or doctor, surgeon. I used to love biology when I was younger. But I love advertising. My favorite show is Mad Men. I love the creativity around advertising. So yeah, I'd be an ad woman.
Your perfect escape?
My perfect escape would definitely be the beach.
If you could live the life of anyone else, dead or alive, who would it be?
I would live my life again as a child. To be honest,
like
I would want to be younger. No, I mean, I would want to be young again and get the chance to live my life again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So you want to live your life, but forever. What are we talking? Like 6, 10, 14? What age? I
just want to be like reincarnated, like again and again and again. I don't want to die, you know?
Right. Okay. I got one more for you as well. I'm not going to throw at you. If 2020 was one word, what would that word be?
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that. Ooh, jungle. For me, it was like a jungle. Because for me, it was really survival mode. I just felt like I was in a jungle and the jungle had a virus. Does that make sense? Because you don't know if you're gonna live or die the next day in the jungle. Like you're always on survival mode. You're always like, I don't know, probably doesn't make sense, but I'm weird. I'm embracing my weirdness. That's my answer.
You know what? It makes sense in a kind of poetic, unexpected way. And on that optimistic note, Lubna, thanks so much for joining us on CommsLife. It was great chatting to you.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to CommsLife. If you liked that, leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. Send us any questions or comments on our Twitter page. And while you're at it, you can subscribe to and download CommsLife on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts from. Stay safe and be well.